All right, welcome back to the Eden Room, everyone, and big welcome to Vicky Green, our incredible in-house business astrologer at the Eden Room, and we are talking about the full moon in Sagittarius, which is occurring tomorrow. I'll let Vicky take us through an overview of that, but I just want to welcome you back. Welcome, Vicky. So happy to have you here. We had a little bit of a glitch on Facebook, so here we are now. Thank you very much for hosting today's full moon in Sagittarius session. I know the moon is exact tomorrow. Could you tell us a bit more about the time of it and what's special and exciting and important for us to know about? I know that a lot of us have been feeling the intensity of this full moon. So take it away, Vicky. Thank you so much for being here.
Brilliant. Hi, Kat. Thank you. And thank you for everybody. You know, tech, it's just so wonderful. And then sometimes it's also a bit too wonderful. So we have our wonderful full moon in Sagittarius, which is also a lunar eclipse. We won't necessarily be able to see it for this country, given that it's going to be at 12:14 British summertime tomorrow. So it's going to be happening during the day, so we won't necessarily see it. That does mean that we will have beautiful full moon if we can see through the clouds that we've all been experiencing with all this rain right now. But there is no doubt that the energy of this full moon is a particularly significant one. So a normal non-eclipse full moon would be really seeing things coming to fruition, really needing to get in touch with our feelings, but also the enjoyment of being at that midpoint in the cycle. You know, we all love seeing a full moon, don't we? It's just the most beautiful thing, shines a light into the night. It's something that we can party under, that we can celebrate, that we can enjoy. So there will be some of that energy, but absolutely with it being an eclipse, there's going to be a moment in which for all of us, it gets us to press reset on all those sort of qualities that the moon brings into our lives. So that's to do with how we think about our family, how we think about our emotions, you know, what nurtures us, what's important to us now, what our dreams and our unconscious hopes and beliefs are. And so it's very much a moment for some self-reflection, for some understanding who we are when the lights go out, who are we on the inside. So this wonderful contrast then. So beautiful full moon energy going on, shining the general light, but a real moment of intensity. And I think it's hard to really sort of overstate the level to which that intensity will be coming through so strongly. Sagittarius, you know, the most outgoing of all the astrological signs, and its ruler Jupiter's just gone into Pisces and it co-rules. So there is an expansive energy going on at the moment. And while in many ways that's absolutely wonderful and ultimately will be great and for our greater good, if we're feeling a little bit emotional, a little bit turbulent, a little bit chaotic even, then that might get turned up to 11 for the next sort of 24, 48 hours. So really glad we're doing this call now. Really want to sort of give everyone some reassurance that if things are feeling a little bit rocky and if we're a little bit uncertain about even how we're feeling, you know, are we in touch with our emotions or are we being overwhelmed? It's almost the whole way that we orient to our emotions is going to get challenged over the next couple of days.
Wow, I'm really feeling that. That's so interesting. So the way that we orient to our emotions, I did not have that down as a Sagittarius thing, because it's been feeling, I've got a Cancer moon. I don't have a lot of Sag in my chart, but I've been feeling this full moon so strongly, and been feeling a lot of intensity. And as you say, a sort of a chaos, kind of feeling like an overwhelm around it, like I'll never get where I'm going, or I'll never get my ducks in a row, or I'm not sure anymore how to respond to life. You know, it used to be if I felt a bit chaos, I'd just get organized. And since this year and the lockdown, it feels like the chaos and the overwhelm and the extremities come, and then it's just my job to just hold it and feel it and allow it, rather than like fix it or troubleshoot it or like change anything necessarily or sort it out. It's kind of like it's just more about expanding and allowing it somehow, or just being present with myself, owning it, going, okay, I feel this way and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's worth remembering at this point, so Sagittarius, so we're looking at all things expansive. So traditionally that would have been travel as well as philosophy, beliefs, but also it's a mutable sign, right? And the mutable signs, so for people who aren't familiar with it, all of the signs are divided up, sort of cardinal, fixed or mutable, and we go round in a cycle from Aries. So we're getting round to Sagittarius and Gemini for that fact. They're both mutable. And so that's the part of the cycle where we're letting go. So it's quite interesting that this sort of most outgoing of signs is also about letting go of the beliefs we held before, letting go of our outdated ideas. And I think with this, with this full moon eclipse, South Node, and we'll come back to chat about the nodes because they're so relevant, obviously, for the eclipse, particularly the technical aspect. But in terms of emotion, it's like, wow, this is going bigger. This is a late Elvis style of emotions, if I was going to describe it like that. This is almost beyond mastery. This is really pushing us to see where our
crystal embedded suit, like overboard, basically going a bit bigger.
Really
so then wrapping that up on the full moon in Sag, is the practice then being about, okay, the emotion comes in, the overwhelm, the terror, the fear, the chaos, whatever, it comes in, and the response to that is, okay, what do I need to let go of? What story, what belief, what programming, what conditioning, what projection do I need to let go of so I can be free, so I can move forward, so I can expand? Yeah. Is that the order of the day for the full moon in Sag right now? Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about how the eclipse season then comes in and what that then means, and any practices we can do to work with that, because I really get that right now the expansion in business kind of feels emotional, like energetic. I want to say energetic. So you're the business astrologer, and I coach business done in a different way, right? An intuitive approach to business. But what I keep getting as I feel into this is like, it's really all about the energy right now. It's not so much about, not to say that you don't take action, and not to say that we don't get jobs done, but there just feels like there's this sort of building, this build up. Is that connected to the eclipse season we're about to move into? And then on a practical level, what does that mean for our businesses and our growth at the moment? Is it that we have to keep going in and in and in ad infinitum, or is there a point at which it's like, right, let's get the rubber on the road?
Yeah, so I think we're at a tipping point. So to talk to your first point around, what is causing, can't quite use that term, but what is the correlation here in terms of what's going on? And actually there's a group of things, which is great, because in astrology normally we say that several things tell us the same message if it's an important one. So we have got our full moon in Sagittarius, which even normally would be quite a big deal, definitely shining a light on growth. And that fits in with where we're at actually in terms of the natural cycle of the year. This is a fast growing period, right? Everything is just shooting for the skies in terms of gardens, farming, whatever, right? So we've got that natural vibe. Then we add in an eclipse, and eclipses are to do with the soul's growth. Right, so every time we get to eclipse season, this is a quantum leap in terms of our understanding of ourselves and where we're going in this particular lifetime. So that's an extra dose. Then when we put in that actually, because the moon is in Sagittarius, ruler Jupiter in Pisces, Jupiter just going to Pisces in its rulership, and it is going great guns. So that's really shining a light, particularly on the sorts of businesses that we might be connected to. So Piscean businesses tend to be more intuitive. They tend to go with the flow. They're creative. They're bringing service to the world. So exactly all of these areas where we will be in dialogue with people, we'll find that all sorts of things are kicking off. So it's not that nothing is happening. Actually, the whole landscape is changing around us. And some of that chaotic feeling is that we're having to tear up our old maps. So that's the feeling of, so we're now in age of Aquarius, and we have Jupiter having come through Aquarius into Pisces, bringing a brand new energy never been felt before. And so here we are, more grace than ever. But the first thing we always get told is throw out the old rule book, so this is all about, and no one gives us a new rule book. That's not how the new energy works. Where we're sitting now, it's kind of like we make our own rules. That's very Aquarian, but my goodness, we have to know ourselves, and we have to know what's important to us to actually reset our structures. So it's very much a sort of a rebirth moment. I know we've talked about a few rebirths this year, and in some ways it might seem a bit odd that we're also talking about it in this context, but I've never seen such a massive sort of philosophical reboot in terms of how we approach things, and business is absolutely at the heart of it. There is no way that we can avoid a conversation about business this year. Gemini, Sun in Gemini, commerce is picking up. We've got Sun, we've got Venus, we've got Mercury, all in Gemini. We are all communicating, we are networking, we are selling, but it's almost like we haven't even got the new frameworks to understand, even where things are growing, why that's growing instead of that. All our logical pieces are just having to get reset to this new energy. It's super exciting. You know, I mean, some of the organizations I'm talking to are actually turning down business. They are so busy, but the actual process of reorienting in it is just taking a little bit more time than perhaps we'd like. So sitting with that discomfort is what's going to make the big difference here. As always, self-care, you know, making sure that we're looking after ourselves, not beating up on ourselves, and just appreciating that the opportunities are coming. And we just have to try to allow ourselves to receive and then check. So this is challenging for those of us that like to plan, but it's almost like it's an agile experience in business at the moment of what's working, do a bit more, what's working, the next step. So gently and slowly, actually, we'll navigate, I think, and bring far better sort of fruitful results must be coming, because the depth of the clearing, getting ready for this, is building us such strong foundations.
Wow, 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 wow. So that's really what's going on. We're going through a process right now that is a huge clearing out, going to the depths, so that this new can enter and take us where we're destined to go. Because Sagittarius is very much that archer, isn't it? That sort of destiny and looking at the future from the present.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we're picking up, so we've got our Saturn-Uranus square that's been going on all year. So we've got Saturn in Aquarius has now gone retrograde just this weekend. So to the extent that things have felt heavy or difficult, we're now getting a double dose of actually time to reflect during this retrograde period of what we've learned since Saturn went in on the 21st of December last year. So we've had very nearly 6 months of this experience. And so things probably have felt, for obvious reasons, heavy and isolated and difficult and hard to make headway. Of course, secretly behind the scenes, we've been building our mastery. But it doesn't feel like that when we're there with our head between our legs, right? It's it's the hard way of actually getting that experience. So in some ways, I think it's quite good news it's gone retrograde. So it gives us time to take stock. So I think it's really important we accept that, you know, that's an important part of the growth process as well, right?
Totally. Is there something in here about the qualities of Age of Aquarius being the richness and quality of connection over what we would assume and imagine from the old world is like success? So for example, this idea that we're all kind of holding each other's hair back right now, you know, taking it in turns to just have our meltdowns and our breakdowns and our breakthroughs, and just being in that kind of like, it's okay, I've got your back, you know, let me like lean on my shoulder for a minute. And I remember when I was at military boarding school, we would do these really intense camps, and we would be out all night for 24 hours on expeditions, and we would be doing all this really intense training. And we would hate it when we were going through it. But when we came out, we would look back on it with such fond memories, and our bonds were like unshakable because we'd been through something really tough together as a community. And it's almost like I'm feeling that, like, even with you and I, when we talk, and it's just this whole other layer, this whole depth of richness, of community, of sharing, of going there with people and finding people that really do feel like soul family, or like are going in the same direction in life with you. And then those connections and the quality of those connections are so much richer and more abundant, and the depth of them is profound.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I'm really struck by whatever we're going to build next is going to build on what we've been experiencing in terms of that networking and connection. I wouldn't want to detract people from thinking that that doesn't mean it won't be also sort of financially rewarding and successful and all the rest of it. But it's almost like, in order to build that kind of financial success in the future, this will be the way to do it. This will be the, so going through the heart really is going to be the only way to get the kind of success that before might have come more easily with pushing through, right? Those doors are closed in terms of how to build a really successful, intuitive, heart-centered business. We're all having to orient, and that actually, the depth of connection that's now available, aren't people just more open and sharing? I mean, it's just so wonderful when you do find people to connect with. And I'm quite certain that, so we've got in this eclipse, we've got the full moon conjunct the south node, and the south node usually is what we're expecting to release, what we're letting go of. And so at this point, we are letting go of the old ways, maybe some old family wounds or patterns. But in terms of direction, that's allowing the space for these new type of tribal relationships to come in, where we can actually feel comfortable and that we have a choice around who we want to be with. And I feel really, really strongly that going forward, and we'll talk a little bit about the solar eclipse that's coming up, where all the activity around the north node, but like what we're building for the future is so beautiful. And will be so delicate and so well connected that it's almost like that reward will be worth it. So as we're all holding each other's hair back, I would just like to say that it will be worth it. We will be getting there, and it will be fine. And it's almost moments like this when you can see the patterns in the sky, that we can feel that it is okay to surrender into the experience, because this isn't something that we can do purely intellectually. I think that's why we have to do it collectively, because others reflect back to us the pieces that we can't see and hold the wounds that maybe we didn't even know that we had. But through that, we're all going to get much further. We're going to do it together.
Yeah, and that is big progress. You know, it might feel like we're walking through treacle, because outwardly or in the world yet there seems to be a gap in terms of we're still quite inward, we're still quite feeling in our sensitivity and everything, but the progress is actually happening. It's just happening in these subtle ways, you know, these invisible ways.
It's so subtle. And I would say that in terms of, so the astrology kind of helps us here really. And I think that feeling around, you know, an eclipse cycle is a really big clearing out and a really big quantum leap. But it's about both the luminaries going dark. So a lunar eclipse, obviously, you know, the Earth is in the way and it goes. When we get round to our solar eclipse, then actually we lose sight of the sun, and we will see part of that partial eclipse on June the 10th. So those two, I mean, that's so challenging to us just as human beings, because, and I think we've touched on before, but I mean, that would have been terrifying to people in previous generations who didn't know that they were coming. But just, you know, psychologically, physiologically, and what it means, just to lose that sight just at the moment when we feel we most need it, is really where we discover what's inside us that makes us us, even beyond our reflection in the sun and the moon. So this who we are in the dark, who we are on the inside, it's like that's the piece that causes the quantum leap. So it's getting deeply in touch with ourselves in a whole new way that's only possible at this point in time on the planet, that's actually going to build the next step. So I really want to reassure everybody that these eclipses are huge opportunities, and even if it feels like everything is really very chaotic, in fact, if it does, chances are you're spot on in terms of the energy. But my goodness, as that old stuff moves out and creates the space for the new to come in, that's when we really actually build something that's of true value and that reflects who we truly are. And that's the theme, that's the Aquarian energy, that although it seems about community, it's both. It's that sort of I'm me and you be you, and together we can do things. But it's not codependent, it's absolutely interdependent. It's about freedom, you know, it's about the freedom to be ourselves. That's the muscle we're all having to build, because frankly, most of us have come out of sort of families and upbringings of origin where that wasn't necessarily always welcomed. And that's my personal view in terms of the work that's going on right now. We're getting sort of deconditioned in the environment in which we were brought up, so that we're ready for a whole new positioning. And of course, that's going to feel chaotic and difficult, you know, because it's almost in our DNA, some of these historic patternings of how we've been taught to think. But what a wonderful opportunity to press reset right now.
Wow, I could really feel that coming through you, Vicky, like straight into my heart and my body. And I was just like, oh yeah, it's good to hear that. You know, it feels good to be reminded of that. And I'm sure a lot of people also need to be wrapped up in that right now and reminded it's a phase, it's a part of the process. Trust the process. We're in the soup, we're in the messy bit in the middle, we're in the goop. And it means that things are forming, things are coming together, they're not falling apart.
Absolutely. And I think probably what's shocking for most of us this year is just how much goop there was to have to go through, how deep it is, how embedded, how many generations of our families and caregivers sort of belief systems that we now realize we've been born into. And, you know, just that process, it's very interesting. Gemini, Sagittarius, you know, so it's all about our thoughts and our beliefs. So it's this month's period, these eclipses, that absolutely clearing out all our beliefs that don't serve us anymore. Ready for us to choose our beliefs, actually. I mean, I do think that, you know, we're entering a new world in which absolutely selecting what we want to think, and as well as who we want to speak to and what's important to us, will be, you know, really top and center of mind. So the old naggy stuff, so both the sort of the traditional monkey mind, the overthinking, that can go, the thinking we have all the answers can go, and the unhelpful beliefs can go. You know, so we're absolutely evolving in terms of how we use our minds through this Gemini Sagittarius energy right now.
And at the same time, there's like, we're evolving, and also when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that is a very indigenous outlook, you know, a very unmachinated outlook. I think it's actually our natural state as humans, but as you say, we've been conditioned over centuries, so we've lost touch with that more deeply connected, earthy cosmology outlook, where I love what you said, and I think that's a great exercise for people to do, is take the pen and paper and write down, what do I choose to believe? And so, you know, an indigenous outlook is not like, I know I'm right, I've got all the answers, it has to be my way or the highway. The indigenous outlook is very respectful of life itself, and always listening, a deep listening to others, to nature, to what's called for, to what's presenting. And I feel like that's the mastery that you're talking about, is this way that we're showing up now for life is about really tuning in. And the reason that we're having to process these deep layers is because in order to live like that, we have to be able to drop in and tune into life at these sensitive, subtle frequencies, so that we can steer the ship and we can navigate. That's where we birth this beautiful world from. But it is like having a newborn baby and being that sensitive and that open and that tuned in to life, rather than numbed out and shut down and just like, well, I think, therefore I am, you know, like the whole, like the mind running the show, that operating system that's got us where it got us the last 2,000 years.
Yeah, and it's definitely right to give credit to the operating system that's got us so far. But my reading of the energy right now is that, you know, what got us here won't get us to the next place that we want to go to. So yeah. I would encourage people absolutely to think about those beliefs, still think about the dreams, but I think it's the how. You know, often we talk in terms of manifesting, about the cursed hows, you know, so it's absolutely have the dreams, have the journaling, tune inside, tune into what really matters. But surrendering and letting go, particularly with this emphasis on the mutable signs, just feels like the only way to get where we want is almost to forget about what we're trying to get to, and certainly how we're trying to get there, right? It's like all bets are off when we're in this energy, but that doesn't mean to say that, you know, that the path isn't going to clear like that. This feels to me almost like we're all, each of us, in our own fairy tale, You know, there's something sort of a little bit otherworldly or Alice in Wonderland. So we're trying to navigate a world which looks so different. And the only way to come through it is by experiencing it. But there will be moments where we say those aha moments are so valuable. And when things start cleaning up, they can clean up really quickly. So that's the other really positive thing about eclipses, is that they are like rocket fuel. And that not only, because we've talked quite a bit about the letting go, which is important for this cycle, but my goodness, the things that we're calling in can come in with absolute sort of accelerated speed, and that will be worth having. So I'm quite confident that by the time we're getting round, and I know we're looking forward to Unbound, we're looking forward to Midsummer, that there will be a whole clarity of where we're sitting by the time we get to that high light point of the year that will put this in context, you know. And that's part of it, isn't it? That we can't always tell where we're going when we're thick in the middle of it. But my goodness, when we get to the end, just like you were saying about your school and the experiences you went through, that it's going to be absolutely worthwhile. Then we'll sit around the fire and talk about it, right?
Yeah, yes, we will. And anyone that is wanting to come and sit around the fire, 21st of June, 20th and 21st here in Somerset, the link is www.theedenroom.com/unbound. And Vicky will be there live in person. I'll be there. We'll have our other Eden Room mentors, Deb DeVries. We'll have the co-founder, Becky Morgan. We'll have incredible music and sound healing from our amazing sound bowl healer, Runa Zarka, who's just back from Costa Rica. So we're very, very excited to be putting on this event with it and sharing it with you all. Vicky, I definitely feel uplifted by hearing that the best is coming, and there is this highlight and this high point. You know, I'm starting to feel this like Christmas is cancelled, like summer is cancelled feeling. You know, it's just like, when is this turning around? When is the sun shining? You know, this kind of feeling of low pressure all the time, inward, downward, which I can do and I'm available for. But I was also just feeling like a little bit of like, come on, like we've got to get moving, and this sense of you know, wanting to get on with it. Now let's just talk to that before we go in the last couple of minutes. Is this a good time for action, for, you know, setting intentions, moving things on, or is this better to let the eclipse come and go, check in with Mercury retrograde and wait till the next new moon? Like, where are we at in terms of advancing? Because right now there's just still so much energy to work with. How long until we can crack on?
So very interesting, and also speak to the weather here. So we have got Mars in Cancer. It's not particularly comfortable there. So actually trying to take action in this most emotional of signs is a little bit sluggish. And also we've got both rulers of Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. So anyone that's wondering whether or not we're going through a watery period probably knows the answer to that.
I was so thinking it felt like February again, the Pisces stuff.
Totally. And that's what makes me feel that. So I think it's absolutely worth people getting clear in terms of what they value, because there's a lot of insight through that watery emotion that it actually speaks to a truth within ourselves, that sometimes we need to take stock and feel it, and does it feel right, rather than just am I thinking it. So I would say that this particular full moon, very, very good for purpose and for career, but a qualitative sense. What is the quality of what I want to build? What is its purpose? So when we think about, you know, growing businesses, it's a brilliant time to think about our vision and mission, that double emphasis on Pisces, you know, and how we're going to work in a way that's actually going to make sense of the communities that we serve, that Mars in Cancer. So really worthwhile thinking about, you know, what is the higher purpose and goal of what it is that I want to achieve, and tune into that. Then we've got this cycle through until we get to the new moon, which will be this solar eclipse as well. That is the point at which we will then see an uptick. So I would say we're coming into sort of 2 weeks worth of really deep internal work that is going to make the difference in terms of achieving what we want. Action is going to go absolutely full on when we get to the 21st. So we've got Mercury retrograde, goes retrograde on the 29th of May, comes out 22nd of June, so pretty much at that peak of midsummer. That's going to be so important. And I'm excited about this particular Mercury in retrograde, because I think we've been through so much that actually quite often Mercury retrograde can bring in things from the past that we've missed. So it'll be time to catch up with old friends. It will be time to actually breathe out a little bit, you know, a time to actually enjoy chilling, you know, rather than this very hectic pace that we've had. I would say that quite a few of us have been at the, are we nearly there yet? And almost the universe is saying, well, yeah, you are, but we just want to make sure you take a bit of a break before you're then full steam ahead at midsummer. So for me, still the biggest challenge of this time is surrendering. And that's the piece whereby, you know, people tuning in to the quality of life that they want, and surrendering the how it's going to happen, and trusting that it's all coming in, just seems to be the really big theme right now.
I hope everybody caught that. So tuning into the quality of life that you want, establishing that mission and vision alignment, letting everything else go, the how, letting that just be surrendered for the time being, trusting that if you release it, it's going to return to you in a clear form. And it's not all your job to work out the how. That's not really the order of the day right now. The order of the day is the surrender, which is actually harder than figuring out all the neat and perfect plans, because the surrender is about trust, and trusting that there's a higher plan and that everything's going to perfectly sort of recalibrate and establish itself for your expansion and your soul's growth.
That is both the challenge of the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius would normally be where we're feeling that connection to the divine, and it really sustains us. So having a lunar eclipse there is kind of, it's a challenge to our faith in the divine, right?
Wow.
And that's a really important process to go through, because sometimes we realize that the divine we thought we believed in isn't maybe the one that we now are being served by. So there's a whole kind of like, what is it that I believe? What am I surrendering into? And to the extent that actually we've been wounded around our trust before, you know, with whatever we've brought in terms of family or collective patternings, this is a great time to let them go. So a real big reset in terms of our belief foundations and what we're trusting in and how we trust, you know, means that all the rest of the good stuff can happen. So better out than in. But I think that that's kind of what's underneath a lot of the goop we're all clearing right now. Is it's so fundamental in terms of how we've built our whole worldviews. So, you know, challenging in every area of our lives, our business, but also our relationships and everything in the washing machine. But, you know, if you're going with the flow and you find a deeper level of trust, it will make all the rest of it easier. So not an easy process to go through, but the right kind of reset for those of us that for whom it is important and who really do want to reconnect and feel that uplift that's coming, you know, because the trust and rather the support that is there when we can lean into it is greater than it's ever been.
Oh, wow.
So eyes on the prize.
What a way to wrap up today's session. I'm really getting that. Hold the line, hold the faith. Don't be stubborn about what you think is so, but surrender to the highest, all, you know, the highest good for all of life, you know, not just me and my little world and my little manifestations, but what is for the highest good of all life here? What are the big turning of the Titanic-esque waves that we're all riding, where we're getting a little bit pounded, but it's like knocking some sense into us about our future on the planet and our sustainability, our survival as a species as well. Totally.
The vision that we are leaning into is so much bigger than we were able to come up with individually. So I think we're starting to get an inkling of that, and that also speaks to this beautiful Piscean energy and all the Aquarian elements. But it's like, wow, it's almost like, I bet as we tune into the ideas, the downloads that are available during this eclipse season, we might well find our visions are bigger than we even thought possible. You know, so trusting that there's something bigger for us, and trusting there's something bigger for us collectively, that's beyond anything that we could have even hoped for.
Wow. Okay, well, amen to that, Vicky. Thank you so much for your amazing words today. I've really felt that passion coming through you. I'm sorry that we couldn't get the Facebook Live. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you're catching this replay and, you know, definitely take the time. So just to wrap up then, tonight, just before the full moon, it's a good idea to really be sitting with the vision and the mission, the kind of coherence of the bright North Star, if you like, for the purpose of our lives, the destiny, really the calling. And then to release the how, but to energetically surrender and align with what that would feel like were it already in your experience. Is that what you would say, Vicky, is the best medicine for this full moon?
I would say that's absolutely the best medicine. And I think that keep going to the heart. I think that's the thing as well. So don't absolutely allow the space, give yourself the container to receive, whether that's journaling or some other creative form. But this is a message of love, and it's going to come through the heart. So allowing it to evolve really naturally, so that the way in which we receive our guidance is also as important as what we're receiving. Yeah. So allowing yourself to be in the flow right now, in a very sort of sympathetic way, feels like the right step forward.
Exactly. And I feel that this is another good moment just to remind people about the Unbound in-person retreat that we're going to be holding, because it's just going to be that opportunity to really strengthen that skill. It's like essential life skill for success in the new age, right? It's like without that ability to hear the heart and understand how it talks to us and tune in with it and then express and create from there, we're a little bit lost, and we're going to come up with an empty cup and an unfulfilled dry cup every single time unless we can tap into that rich place. So for people that don't have experience of that, this is the opportunity to really come and drink from the well, fill up the cup, and then learn how to continue to use that muscle through life.
That's so beautiful. I'm reminded of reading Jung the other day saying about, you know, the challenge is to become the Holy Grail. We become the waters of life. And I feel that that's very, you know, leaving all the watery analogies outside with all the rain, that's what's going on right now. So Unbound, how fantastic.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, and then you can just flow like a river all the way to the ocean and leave all the how and all the nitty gritty and the details up to the divine, because your job is just to continue to be you and show up and give that service that you're here to give. Thanks for being such an amazing example of that today, Vicky. Thanks for pouring your wisdom and love and energy and generosity into our hearts and souls. And I know that I treasure it and value it deeply. And these calls just are keeping me sane right now in terms of navigating so much energy and being so sensitive to it. So thank you for all that you're doing and your part in that, walking that path with us all. And ladies, I hope this was resonant for you. I'm sorry about the tech, but I hope you'll be able to comment below. Wherever you're seeing this video, we would love to hear from you. We want to hear how it resonated. We want to hear how you're getting on. We will see you back in the Eden Room for the new moon, 10th of June, did we say?
So new moon is on the 10th, but I think we'll probably do the day before, a bit like this, to give people a bit of warning. So 9th of June will be on there.
So keep your eyes peeled on the Facebook page, in the email at the www.theedenroom.com. Sign up for reminders, and Vicky and I will be back for the new moon event in June. Much love, everybody. Take care. Take good care of yourself, and bye for now. Thanks, Vicky.